Hello, Chart Masters, friends, and family. We're back with another lesson. This is lesson 7. Today we're going to be continuing from what we left off, or where we left off yesterday. Thank you. With the prior lesson, which was lesson 6, and we left off on Shem begetting Arphaxad. So, we're going to start now, but we always want to first thank the Lord for giving us this opportunity today to do this. Without him, this would not be possible. We also want to thank the creator, Pastor Vance N. Dean, the creator of Chart Masters. Once again, as I always state, the link to the biography of Chart Masters is in the description of the video. So let's go ahead and get started. So we can see we have Arphaxad. He was begotten by Shem. Shem was 100 years old. We know that because we reference our verses. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 tells us that these are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. Okay, 2 years after the flood. That information is covered in the previous video. That link will also be in the description. But we're going to continue where we left off. So the current year is 1659 BC, or 1,659 years from creation. Now we're going to note Shem is 100 years old. Arphaxad is begotten here. Great. Now we're going to follow Arphaxad's life down and see when the next event occurs. So we're going to just start going down some years, okay? So Arphaxad's 1 year old, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we're going to stop here. The verse changed. It went to Genesis 11:12 after the year that he was begotten. And the reason is we are counting whatever the next event is that can be counted in the next person's life if there is a reference verse. Let's look at Genesis chapter 11, verse 12. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begot Selah. So 35 years, okay? So we know that's very simple. So he was 35 years old, okay? So we're going to follow this down till he's 35 years old, which is not going to take much. So we're just clicking the down arrow. We're going to get to he is 35 years old, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, Arphaxad is 35 years old and begot Selah here. We did just as the scriptures told us to. We went 35 years down to his age from the year he was born. And what do we have? The year is 1694 BC, also 1,694 years from creation. Now, I'm going to do a recap. I'm going to pause right here, recap. The number on the left represents the numbers counting down from Adam being created. The number on the right represents counting down to the birth of Jesus Christ. The number on the left increases the further we go down in history away from Adam being created. The number on the right decreases the closer we get to the birth of Christ. Now, Arphaxad is 35 years old. He's also 1.05 generations old. 1 generation is equivalent to 30 years. 1 times 30 is 30. 30 plus 5 is 5. That's just the formatting of generations that it's accounted for, which will leave no remainder to equal and be relevant to the math of the current year. So we read the verse, Genesis chapter 11, verse 12. Now we know that Selah was born on the year 1694 BC. We have a concrete date. Now I'm going to go right 1 column because Selah is the next person. All right, Selah is begotten here. age 0. Genesis 11:12, which we just read. But we do not want to forget that the people who begot someone still continue to live a certain amount of years, and we want to follow it all the way down. So I want to go back left one column. I went right. Now I'm just going to go back one left column. Okay. So we're going to go down 1 year after the birth of Selah. And Arphaxad's life, Genesis, the verse changed, 11:13. The reason why is because now we're going to count the remaining years of Arphaxad's life. He just had a son at the age of 35, but we know he did live some additional years. We must count those years because they're all relevant to tie everyone back to the beginning until the end of whichever specific point they lived or died. Genesis chapter 11, verse 13 states, and Arphaxad lived after he begot Selah 403 years and begot sons and daughters. Okay? So we know that he lived another 403 years. So we're going to navigate down until we get to 403 years from that specific point of him being 35. But we're not going to just go that many years down the line. I mean, we can just stop at 100, okay? Let's just stop at 100. That's his age, he'll be 100, okay? Now, we know that he's 100 years old, but if he was 35, right, when he begot Selah, and it says he lived another what? Read the verse again. Always reference a verse if you forget. 403 years. So 403 plus 35 is going to give you 438. So now we're going to navigate down to his year. All right. So Arphaxad's death, 438 years. That's how long he lived. Genesis chapter 11, verse 13, which we just read. So now we can say that Arphaxad died on the year 2097 BC. Also, 2097 years from creation, because this number is just counting away from Adam being created. And the number on the right is counting down to the birth of Christ, and that is 1907 BC. So, which is exactly, would be 1,904 years to the birth of Christ, not 1,907. Keep in mind, we have to carry the 4 all the way down until the birth of Christ. That was touched on in lesson 2 and lesson 1. But as again, we always need to reference whatever information God has left us. So Arphaxad is deceased here, okay? He lived a total of 14.18 generations. If we do the math, we know that a generation is equal to 30 years. So 14 times 30 plus 18 is going to give us this 438 here. Now, keep in mind, you can also pull up your calculator. We're always just going to do some simple math, adding and multiplying to keep up. And you can have your Bible as well and read the scriptures along with me, or you can just listen. But we want to go back up to where we were, which was Arphaxad being when Arphaxad was 35 years old, okay? So I always like to demonstrate the years, right? But I don't want to go back too many years. So I'm just going to put it here, 400, and then we'll just navigate. Go back the years. Back 365. Okay. So now we are at Arphaxad being 35 years old. We're at Genesis chapter 11, verse 12. We're going to go over right one column. Now we're on the year of, same year, 1694, Selah's begotten, Genesis 11:12, which we already read. Now let's start to navigate down the life of Selah. So now it's Genesis 11:14. He's 1 year old, but that verse changed because what are we doing? We are tracking whatever the next event that occurred, which is, I can imagine, and you can too, what happened. He begot someone. Genesis chapter 11, verse 14. And Salah lived 30 years and begot Eber. We're just following it down as the scriptures tell us. Okay, so if we go down 29 years, down 29. All right, we went down 29 years. Salah is 30 years old, okay? And he is 1 generation old here, okay? 1 generation is equivalent to 30 years. All right, so we read the verse, Genesis chapter 11, verse 14. And now we know that Eber was begotten on the year 1724 BC from Adam, or 1,724 years from creation. Also, the year 2280 BC until the birth of Jesus Christ. But the exact years is 2,276 years until the birth of Christ. All right? Now we know Salah is 30 years old. Eber is begotten here. We read the reference verse. The year is 1724 BC. I want you to keep in mind, at any specific point, don't forget, some people may still be living who we already mentioned. Now, we're going to take some time to actually go over some columns to the left, and we're going to see if some people are alive still. And we're just going to use the arrow button down here. We're just going to click it once each time and see what we have. Now, we know the next person to the left of this individual who begot Salah is who? Arphaxad. So what we're going to do now is we're going to navigate all the way over until we get to Adam, but we're going to stop and look at each person's age. Okay, I don't want you to be confused here because we're not going to switch years. We're not going to go up any years or down. We're on the year that Eber was begotten, okay, which is to the right, one column. Eber is begotten here, age 0. Genesis chapter 11, 14. The year is 1724 BC. Well, we just want to point something out. I'm going to go over left 1. Arphaxad, 65 years old when Eber was begotten. Left 1. Shem was 165 years old when Eber was begotten. Left 1. Noah was 668 years old when Eber was begotten. Now we know that Eber could have met Noah or vice versa. Noah could have met Eber. Over left 1. Lamech was dead, or deceased. I like that, prefer that. Deceased 73 years when Eber was begotten. Methuselah was deceased 68 years when Eber was begotten. Enoch was taken for 737 years when Eber was begotten. You always can read the reference verses here if you want to. You can pause and look up the scripture. Jared was deceased 302 years when Eber was begotten. Mahalalel was deceased 434 years when Eber was begotten. Canaan was deceased 489 years when Eber was begotten. Enos was deceased 584 years when Enos was deceased 584 years when Eber was begotten. Seth was deceased 682 years when Eber was begotten. And Adam was deceased 794 years when Eber was begotten. So now we went to the very first descendant, Adam, where it started. God created Adam, the first man, and all the descendants who we covered came down the lineage on from Adam. Yes, there were many other sons and daughters that these descendants begot, but the Lord did not give us dates. He did not give us numbers. A number still can be referred to as a date. So we cannot track that. We only can track what the Lord left us. But thankfully, he provided enough information where we can piece it together like a puzzle, and we can still tie it back to the present, and the present back unto the past, to the beginning. Now, we know, I'm going to say something very important. Do not forget this, people. This is God's biblical timeline and obituary chart, right? We are honoring the deceased as well as the living, but we are honoring in the fashion of what God left. He left us math and generations. Every person was begotten on a specific generation, and everyone has died on a specific generation who we are referencing. Keep in mind, you will die one day, and you will be on a specific generation. I don't know when that generation may be. Hopefully, you will have enough time to carry out your mission before he calls you home, because we all must face that one day. And this is always a consistent reminder that time is of an essence and it is short. So these individuals lived hundreds of years, but people nowadays are not living more than 120 years from what I've seen and from what I've read. So we know that we all come to an end. And just like that, we know who the greatest person was, which was Jesus. And I want to say that because he was the one that transitioned from life to death, but through his death, he gave us life. How long will it be until Jesus was born? And we want to look at that, and then we'll go back over to Eber. We'll go down to Eber's life, and we'll look at the next descendant, and then we'll end there. So Jesus is over a few columns, so I'm just going to navigate left one. And we're still on the year that Eber was born, 1724. Left another one, left another one, left another one, left. On the year that Eber was begotten, Jesus will be born in 2,276 years. 2,276 years. I'll say it again. 2,276 years. That's how long it would be if we were living in this specific year, 1724 BC, on the year that Eber was begotten. 2,276 years until the birth of Jesus Christ. There's no way you would know that unless you tied the lineage back together. Now, some may think, how do you know that? Well, we only know according to what God left us. Now, I didn't create this document. Pastor Vance N created this document, but he did it through the revelation of the scriptures, and he used what God left him, which was everything in the scriptures. Now, we will cover the birth of Jesus Christ, and we will cover it in detail from all the descendants and how the years total up to equal the summation to get to the 4,000 years from Adam being created. We'll stop there. Let's not get too deep. We're going to go back to Eber. Eber was born the year 1724, so go to Eber. Now, it doesn't want to pick that up. Sometimes the names are a little funny, so we'll have to work that out. But I'm just going to navigate back over to Eber. That's all I'm doing. I'm going right, 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 one, right, right, one, right, 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 and we're almost there. Oh, we passed it. We got too excited. I'm sorry. Left, 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 left. Here we are. Eber, 1724 BC. Genesis 11:14. We read that already. Let's go down 1725. Eber is 1 year old. The scripture that we're referencing is Genesis chapter 11, verse 16. And Eber lived 430 years and begot Peleg. Okay, so he was 34 years old when he begot Peleg. So we're going to navigate down to his age 34. So we're going to go down, until we get to 34. Oh, skipped it. All right, Eber is 34 years old and begot Peleg here. Genesis chapter 11, verse 16, which we just read. The year is 1758 BC. We can now say that Peleg was begotten on the year 1758 BC, also 1,758 years from creation, in the year 2246 BC until the birth of Christ, but specifically 2,242 years until the birth of Christ from this specific point. 1.04 generations old is Eber, and it's 1 times 30 plus 4 will give you 34, because 1 generation is equal to 30 years. We're going to follow it down to the end of Eber's life because it's important. We all live and we all do die. So we're going to go down 1. Genesis chapter 11, verse 17 tells us that, and Eber lived after he begot Peleg 430 years and begot sons and daughters. So I want to pull up the little slider here, okay? And we're going to select, who can you guess? I bet you can't guess it. Oh, darn, the answer's right here, Eber. All right. So we're going to slide this little bar here all the way over until we get to the end of his life. Boom, here we are. Death here, age 464. We now know that Eber was deceased, or he died on the year 2188 BC from Adam, 1860 BC until the birth of Jesus Christ. 15.14 generations, 15 times 30 plus 14 will give us that 464. And I'm not just rattling these numbers off. You can do the math yourself. Remember, 1 generation is equivalent to 30 years. Now, the number after the decimal, the point here might be confusing because a lot of people have never heard of generations. But we will break that number down and all numbers related to generations in a total separate video because it's crucial to understand why that is. Now we're going to go back up until the birth of, let's go. I'm going to go and down. Let's just go to his age. Age 4. Come on, we got to go up. 34. 4. There we go. Peleg. We're going to go over 1 column to the right. But before we do that, we're going to select Peleg right here. Age 0. We're going to go over 1 to the right. And Peleg's here. We read Genesis chapter 11, verse 16. Now we're going to navigate down 1. He is 1 year old. The verse did change. We're counting anything that changes between these descendants' lives. Genesis chapter 11, verse 18 tells us that, and Peleg lived 30 years and begot Reu. Right. 29 years, we're going to go down 29. All right, Peleg is 30 years old. He is 1 generation old and begot Reu here. Genesis chapter 11, verse 18. Now we're just going to follow Peleg down till the end of his life. And then we're going to stop there. Okay, so how long did he live? Let's go down 1. The verse changed. Genesis chapter 11, verse 19. But pause. I skipped something that I was doing with all the other descendants. Now we can say Reu was begotten on the year 1788 BC. Also the year 2216 BC until the birth of Christ. And 1 generation in the age of Peleg's life. Let's go down 1. Genesis chapter 11, verse 19 told us that let's not lose sight. And Peleg lived after he begot Reu 209 years and begot sons and daughters. Okay, so we're going to go down. We need to select Reu. We might have made a mistake. Excuse that. This information right here might have changed while I was going up and down because I was still active on this selection. So excuse that. But we're going to go down until we get to the end of Rue's life. Peleg's life. All right. Let's go down, 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 down. We'll just grab our slider bar here, okay? And we're going to go to the end of his life. Here, death here, age 239. Okay, he lived a total of 7.29 generations. Now we can say that Peleg was deceased, or he died on the year 1997 BC. That sounds like one of the modern years, right? I was born in the year 1997. Not me, but just in general. But it's BC. It's just before Christ. And then we got 2007 BC. That is the year until Christ's birth. I like those numbers for some reason. They just look good. Okay, 1997 BC is also 1,997 years from creation. And then we're at 2007 BC until the birth of Jesus Christ. But it's exactly 2,003 years until the birth of Jesus Christ from this specific point. And folks, we're going to stop here. And I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. We'll continue from Peleg on the next lesson. And we want to thank God for giving us an opportunity today to do this, because without him, this wouldn't be possible. If he didn't wake me up this morning, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Or if I didn't live to see this moment, I wouldn't be able to do this. We also want to thank the creator, Pastor Vance Dean, for creating Chartmasters. Without him and his obedience, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm signing out.